Welcome to Mindful Ambition, the podcast where we explore what it means to lead with purpose and ambition without losing ourselves in the process. I am your host, Dr. Andrea Gleim, psychologist, empowerment coach, speaker, and founder of Mindfully Mine and TheraVolve. Each week, I'll sit down with powerful women and emotionally intelligent leaders to unpack what drives them and how they stay grounded while pursuing big goals. Let's get started. So today's guest is someone who truly embodies resilience, purpose, and the courage to rebuild your identity from the inside out. I'm so excited to welcome Vanessa Alcala, a first-generation college graduate, ASHA certified speech language pathologist, distinguished early career professional, and the founder of TheraVolve Wellness Co, a bilingual, culturally responsive speech therapy practice right here in Tampa Bay. Her practice was named Best of the Best SLP by the Tampa Bay Times in 2025, and she works with both children and adults across clinical, home, school, and telehealth settings. But what I love most about Vanessa is that her impact doesn't stop there. She's also a public speaker, an executive communication coach, and the creator of Impact to Income, a program that helps healthcare professionals turn their expertise into paid speaking opportunities and personal brand growth. Impact to Income 2.0 drops spring 2026, and if you know Vanessa, you know it's going to be bigger, bolder, and deeply transformative. She's a mentor, a mother of two, a certified dementia practitioner, and a HELLP syndrome survivor. And her story, especially navigating burnout during the pandemic while pregnant, is a powerful example of turning pain into purpose and leadership. Vanessa, I am so grateful that you're here, and welcome to Mindful Ambition.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So you've built such a strong reputation in such a short amount of time, and your path into speech therapy and later entrepreneurship came with a lot of challenges and reinvention. So take us back for a second. And what was the moment you knew that you wanted to build TheraVolve? And who did you have to become to make that happen?
Honestly, it was kind of like the perfect storm of everything I did not want happening all at the same time. TheraVolve was born. I bought the LLC the day that I had graduated from grad school. Once I got my master's in the speech language pathology program at USF, go Bulls. And I bought the LLC and I was like, I don't know what we're going to do with this, but we're going to get it now so that I can hold myself accountable and come back to it and revisit it. I did my clinical fellowship at a skilled nursing facility in Tarpon Springs.
Okay.
And I started around October, and March was when COVID kind of broke out. So I was able to see and experience working as a healthcare provider pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic, and it was vastly different in many different ways. And the delivery of care, the limited resources we were able to bring in, we went from having 30-minute speech therapy sessions, which even then is not a lot, to 10-minute sessions, 12-minute sessions, and several patients on my caseload. And then being pregnant, I had two high-risk pregnancies, but my first pregnancy with Luca, they're like, here's a trash bag. You can go into the COVID unit and treat your patients. And, that really put into perspective where my values lied. And I did go in and I did treat my patients and were there with some of them during their final moments. But during that time as well, my abuela had passed away. So it was like just a domino effect of, is this really like, I'm doing so much. I'm the first in my family to go to college, and I should be proud, but this is not how I thought it would be in many ways. And so, I think it was the pandemic, the high-risk pregnancy, my abuela passing away, and then just the limited amount of care that I was able to provide. It just ethically was not okay. It was bringing me down. So the whole combination of burnout led to, this has to be different. I can do something different. And after researching and getting with different mentors, I realized I can have my own private practice. I can see my own clients directly. And part of it was conflicting because I felt like leaving that setting was leaving those people behind. But in actuality, I was able to meet those people before they reached that point as more of preventative care. And I do love littles as well. So I was able to dive into working with pediatrics too. So I was able to have my cake and eat it too. But fortunately, all of those things led to just the drastic decision of leaving.
I mean, I think that that's, we don't go into the helping field to not do our work efficiently, right? So I think that a combination of what we feel is important, our ethics behind why we went into our field. I mean, and this is like where it comes in, like marrying the business part of things and the the reason why we became clinicians to begin with, right? So it's being able to navigate those two things, and as a practice owner, you're able to just bring in the culture that you're trying to build and be able to give that place for people to practice the way that you envision people practicing, but also having to make some business decisions along the way as well for your own growth. But you get to do it on your terms. And I think that's what's beautiful about being able to create something that's yours, is that you get to say the narrative of that business and also lean into the things that made you want to be a clinician to begin with, but also honoring that entrepreneurial mindset as well.
Yeah, it's a huge risk, but the reward is insane.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So many of our listeners feel that pull to create something of their own, but fear keeps them still. And I think that that's something that we can both relate to.
Hmm.
What truth did you learn about taking the first step and before you felt like you were ready to take that step?
Um, I think I realized you're never going to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
You just try to equip yourself in the best way that you can. Recognize that part of knowledge is you do, cost versus investment is always a big thing I preach about and have always preached about. Um, we're quick to spend money on random things, but when it comes to investing in ourselves, investing in our health or our education or our knowledge, we kind of like put full stop, wait a minute, and second guess it. So for me, I think the biggest thing was I'm never going to feel ready, and that's okay. But what can I do to make me feel as prepared as possible? And that's when I began to just kind of take a deep dive and evaluate, okay, where should I go? What should I look into? So the independent clinician start your private practice program was huge for me. I was already on the path to starting my private practice, but taking her course, Jenna's course, definitely helped just expedite, like, saving the time and energy, and not making costly mistakes for sure. So I think that's a big part of it. And then finding people within your community. I think that's also why, Sarah and I created Sip and Social. And I think that's why it's been as successful as it has, is because we didn't have it elsewhere. Like there were no contacts for anyone. And, corporate healthcare is not a bad place at all. It's nothing against it. It just depends on the setting. It depends on the company. But for us, I found if I'm going to dive into being a healthcare entrepreneur, I want to be around other healthcare entrepreneurs and talk about those experiences and share it with them. So that's why we created the community that we did, because we didn't see it. So I think cost versus investment, analyzing that, finding the community or creating one if it's not there already, and believing in yourself and knowing that you're not going to have all the answers.
I mean, that's very true. The community is a big piece, especially when, I mean, for myself, going into practice, being alone, solopreneur kind of thing,
Mhm.
being able to find Sip and Social and having other clinicians that are going through the struggle together,
Struggle bus.
and we're all together in this together, but also being able to, just build that community. And I think that that's such a big piece, especially not just as entrepreneurs, but also as women entrepreneurs. I think that that's a big piece.
Mhm.
And also like that even shift of we're healthcare professionals, we're clinicians, and we're also entrepreneurs. So we're the two things. And so we have to be able to step into those two roles and accept those two different identities, because decisions that we make as entrepreneurs might not necessarily be the decisions that we're going to make or show up as clinicians.
Mhm.
But we are both of those things. And like, not everyone understands that more than another fellow healthcare entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So it's really, I love Sip and Socials. So sign me up for the next one.
Yeah, I would say the
What?
identity is challenging. Being a healthcare entrepreneur, we're so focused. It's like you have to keep, the clinician hat will never come off, but
Hmm.
putting on the CEO business hat can be a challenge. But I think it comes back to there is always going to be difficult decisions that need to be made for the betterment of the company, for your well, but it all trickles down to being able to provide the service and care that you want to the people who you appreciate most, which are our clients and patients and families. And so it
Hmm.
just helps lessen the blow when it comes to some of those difficult business decisions.
I also feel like the level of quality of care that we can provide when we're on our own is complete. It's a game changer. And also like our levels of burnout can be
Hmm.
reduced because we have more autonomy on like decisions and scheduling, and we can give a better quality care to our patients and our clients that we can't necessarily do when we don't have that autonomy. So, again, to your point, nothing against corporate healthcare. It does start with the culture within that corporate healthcare environment. And as your solo practitioner, or, as being in your own private practice, that's a different, like, you are more in control of those things and creating that culture that you want. And ultimately giving that quality of care is to me one of the most important things.
And fulfilling. Yeah, absolutely.
So, when you were working the front lines of the pandemic while pregnant and you survived HELLP syndrome and navigated extreme burnout, a combination of that helped can actually break anyone, right? Those very impactful things. And one of the things that you said was, when you were pregnant with your first son, here's a trash bag. And I can only think of that as like a new mom, like, this is my first time I'm pregnant, going through that, and that's like the treatment. I can't even imagine that, going like through that and experiencing that. So a combination of all those things, you were able to push through and transform, and it was a turning point for you. So for the women that are listening right now who feel like maybe they're on autopilot or going through these transitions or feeling exhausted, feeling overwhelmed, what would you want her to hear?
Stop. Stop, or your body will tell you to stop.
Yeah.
So someone's going to tell you to stop. It's going to be you or your body. So which way do you want it to go? That would be my advice, is to stop, because we know as women, I feel like we're highly intuitive beings. And I think we know when things are off. We know we can understand and anticipate when problems will arise. And it's just in our nature. It's a gift that we have as women. And I feel like, but we're the first to suppress it within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they say, it's like the whole airplane thing where it's like, oh, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you put the one next to you, or fill your cup before you fill up someone else's.
I am so guilty of saying that to my clients. When you're on a plane, they tell you have to put your oxygen mask first before you have someone else. I am guilty of saying that, but it's true.
But it's so literal. It's the best literal example that you can give, to where it's like, you got to stop before you go helping someone else. You have to help yourself. So I think that would be my biggest advice, would just be stop, listen to your body, and figure out what's not working. And most of the time we know what's not working. We just always think that there's never a solution, ever.
No, that's good advice. Stopping, pausing, being intentional of those pauses, those breaks in your day, in your weeks, in your months. And you bring a good point. Like, your body's telling you, your body will warn you before anything is happening. But we have to be willing to like dive in and listen to our bodies when it's communicating with us. We try to avoid it, or we mask it, or we move on to the next thing, and we don't just take a moment to really listen to what our bodies are telling us. And I think that that's huge for women, leaders, moms, that we just are navigating all these different, high achievers. Like, we're just navigating all these different things and tasks, and, having 1,000 tabs open at all times in our minds, and figuring out which ones we're going to close out, and being able to, oh, we closed this one, but now 3 more opened up. And so, we're always navigating these different waters. And so being able to be very intentional about our pauses are super important.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we also as entrepreneurs get a little bit of a high off of constantly having like fires to put out. And it's a challenge, it's an obstacle, and that can be good, but not to the extent of yourself, your physical well-being and your mental well-being, which I'm sure you can speak on more than I can. But I think that would be the biggest thing, and to not like shame yourself, to know that we all do it. We all will suppress, and we all will just push through. But I think the biggest thing, and like I said, you can probably speak on this better than I, is like the martyr mentality does not serve anyone. Like, being the one to take one for the team, and one to, like, you don't get a trophy for that, It's not something to be prideful of, I think. So, which can be tough.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, like that hustle culture, right? Like, we have, and we're sometimes trained in this way of like, we got to always work. We always have to be doing something. We always have to be, hustling, right? Like, that's our value. And in some ways that's what we learned, but that's also detrimental to ourselves in how we're showing up, even in other, in other roles, or, our ability to stay present. And, changing that narrative can sometimes be difficult. Changing that mindset can sometimes be difficult because I think that we are so accustomed to your point of we always need to be busy. Busy equals success. And then just changing that narrative of no, you don't have to be constantly busy or constantly in high stress or constantly in burnout mode to be successful. That's not success.
No, I
Success
also
is
think
being able to
both,
delegate things.
right? Like
Yeah.
busyness can be an avoidance behavior.
Exactly. Of the other things, like stepping into listening to your body when it's telling you slow down.
Mhm. You're like, no, I
So
want to go.
I want to run. Are you sure? I want to keep on going. Well, talking about all the things that you do on top of being a mom and an entrepreneur, let's talk a little bit about the impact to income. And it's such a powerful blueprint for healthcare professionals who want to step into their leadership and get paid for their voice. What sparked the idea of this program?
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
It all started with a client I had. She was a female executive in a male-dominated field and wanting to excel. It originally started as an accent reduction client, but quickly I realized I was like, this is more than just accent reduction. And actually, I should say accent refinement because I'm very specific when clients do come to me and want to participate in accent reduction therapy or anything like that. I'm very heavy on like, this is not to diminish your culture or your heritage. Especially being culturally responsive the way that I am, like it's ingrained in me. But people can come to us because it's impacting their conversations, it's impacting the intonation or the delivery or how their message is being conveyed. And in a workplace setting, that sucks, right? You want to make sure you have good, healthy workplace discourse, regardless of whether it's female dominant, male dominant. And so it originally started as an accent reduction, session and therapy plan of care, but then quickly it transmuted into public speaking anxiety and noticing a lot about our bodies and what we're ignoring, what we're not addressing, how we're responding in certain settings. And then we just began to do like mock trials, mock interviews, mock, witnessing. And I would see in real time the body language, the changes. And yeah, it just was something that I was like, wow, I'm actually really good at this. I'm actually really good at being able to help tweak someone. And I love the in person. I love the being able to have them come back and say, hey, I was able to execute this meeting, or I was able to finally get into this very exclusive leadership program that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. I would have literally just gone to the bathroom and vomited. Like that would have been the end of it. And so it's amazing to me that something that I enjoyed doing has been able to help people excel not only as a career, but as a woman, as a mother at home, communicating with their partners. And, I think it's amazing that we can be married to people who are also high achieving, but it's extremely difficult when you have two, entrepreneurs or two high achievers in the same household. It can be challenging. And so I think communication, even us as speech language pathologists, we are considered experts, but we don't always practice that way because we're human, right?
Right.
So I think that idea kind of sparked after that. And then I was invited to their organization to do a workshop. And I said, I'm going to make a workshop, not just a keynote. Let's make it a full interactive thing because that's really what it comes down to. It's not just a quick fix program. It's, hey, let's sit down, let's dive, let's give feedback, let's actually do tangible things in real time. And after that, of course, Sarah with Social Moguls was like, you need to make this a thing. And so Impact to Income was born. And now I'm just going to give it a million better versions for this upcoming year. We have new exciting things that aren't even announced yet that are coming out. And so it's kind of just developed into something that I realize as a healthcare entrepreneur, but also as a speech language pathologist, not many people understand voice disorders or body language and all of the other things that can be associated with communication. And it's not just for those who have a language disorder or a communication concern or anything like that. It can just be for people out in the workforce who have public speaking anxiety or just more reserved or quiet, or their voice fluctuates, or maybe they have to have difficult conversations. If a provider has to sit down and explain to someone who is a physician and now has difficulty with their language or whatever the case may be. I mean, we've had to have those conversations with some of our patients. And how do you navigate those conversations in a way that are tactful, insightful, helpful, and calm, and giving that unconditional positive regard, but also making sure that you're confident when you relay that message, and then going home to your family and acting like everything's okay, you know? So
Yeah.
it's kind of turned into something that I realize is we can offer hugely in addition to just traditional speech therapy, and not everyone can do it. I recognize that not everyone can go on TV, and not everyone feels comfortable jumping on a podcast interview and just winging it and everything like that. So that's why I'm creating the things that I do, and I'm creating the curriculum and the products, and it's, you know, it's a great way to diversify your income, but it's also because I feel like we need more of it. There's so much misinformation online, especially in the media, especially when it comes to health and healthcare and that whole industry. And so really the ones who need to be standing up and speaking and educating others are healthcare professionals who have the degrees, who have the certifications, who have the experience. So I feel like now more than ever, it's a huge prime time for people to really step into not just direct client care, but that's how you create impact. That's how we create knowledge and education and share it with the rest of the world.
I mean, one thing that it sparked when you were speaking was the fact that a lot of people do have misinformation, and the fact that people don't even understand how multifaceted being a speech language pathologist is, right? Like there's different things, like that's a specialty, but then within that specialty, there's other specialties, there's other things that you can focus on. And it's beautiful how you're using that in such a different way to help other people, other professionals, other, just even coming into you for you to say, I want, what is it called? Accent refinement?
Right, accent refinement or accent
Refinement.
reduction. With them thinking that that's the issue.
That's right. But
When in
even that, right? It's like,
Mhm.
for me personally speaking, my first exposure to a speech language pathologist was when my grandfather had a stroke and he had to learn how to speak again. So that was my exposure. And I was a lot younger, not in the medical field yet. I was in my teens, right? So for me, obviously, it was very different. But that was my first exposure. So growing up, that's what I focused on, and that's what I thought was, what you specialize in. And then I meet you and such wonderful other speech language pathologists. And then I'm like, oh, there's swallowing specialists, there's feeding specialists, there's this. I'm like, there's so many other things. And it's like, I don't think that people really truly understand how multifaceted your specialty is, your profession is, and how important it is in many different areas, like children, different like age groups. It's so important. So, and then you being able to take all of that and all your knowledge and creating something else and to like expand into other professional and leaders and saying like, I can use what I know and help you grow as a professional. I think that that's amazing.
Yeah, I love our field. It's literally the best, and I know I'm biased. Speech pathologist really alone does not encompass all that we truly do.
Yeah,
So I love what I do.
good. I mean, I can tell. I know that you love what you do, and that's really where the passion lies, and that's where the quality of care lies, and it's nice to see how much you like light up when you're talking about what you do and your practice and all the ideas that you have coming up. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how you continue to transform and transition in these different seasons of your life. So everybody, stay tuned. Well, as as a speech language pathologist and executive communication coach, you see every day how voice and identity are intertwined. How has that shaped the way that you guide leaders, executive, and professionals?
I mean, I think confidence plays a really big piece into it, but in order to be confident, we have to be competent.
Mm,
And so it really varies on the person. Everybody can be in a different industry. And I think that's what's exciting about diving into what I have the past couple of years is it's not just diagnosis, treatment, intervention, boom. It's more like, oh, this is a new individual in a field that's so different from ours and has these specific concerns at work and maybe personal life. And it really, it's, in some ways, I feel like we counsel them in different ways. But I think that's the biggest piece is just, where are they having communication breakdowns, whether it's in their personal life or in a work setting, and seeing and witnessing in real time how they are. And I luckily am a very forward personality, and I do it out of love, and they know it's coming. They already know it. And it's a little bit of tough love. And this is part of what we'll be implementing next year with a specific program as well, where it's kind of like, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to ask you a difficult question. I'm going to ask you why you're doing XYZ, or I'm going to say specifically what I see that, are you confident in what you're saying right now? Were you telling the truth when you said that? And most of the times I'm right. And it's a fidgeting, it's a twitch, and it's not to be super over analytical, because even those that even individuals who have or stutter, like, it's okay. We're not here to diminish or hide the stutter. You want to enhance it, like, you want to embrace it. And I think that's the biggest piece of it, is people think everything has to be perfect. You have to be a perfect speaker and all of these things, and it's like, no, you just want to try to be as cool, calm, and collect as possible, and focus on your message, less about being this and that. And our body, I'm sure will manifest stress and tension and anxiety in different ways, and that's what people see, and that's what gets misinterpreted as they don't know what they're talking about, or something's wrong with them, or they're anxious. And we know stress makes everything worse. So
It does.
it's a huge part into it. Yeah.
One of the things that I talk about is in picking up what you're saying, like your body language says everything, right? So if you walk into a room and you're feeling and you're owning what you're saying and you're confident about what you're saying, then the message will land differently to the crowd or to whoever is listening to you. But if you're feeling more anxious and unsure of what you're saying, then it kind of leaves the audience saying, why should I listen to you? It doesn't seem like or you're not sure of what you're saying. And you might be the expert and you might know exactly what you're saying, but that anxiety comes out in your body language, and therefore the way that the message is received is, I don't know if I want to actually listen to this, versus someone who stands there very confident. They can sell what they're saying because of the confidence is coming out, and that's what the audience is receiving.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's anywhere, right? It could be a public speaking engagement, or it can be a meeting with a whole bunch of people that, it can be, and this also for women in male dominated fields, right? That imposter phenomenon can come in and say, like, well, now I'm presenting on something, and, everyone else is a male, and that can come in, and that anxiety comes in. But if we're able to relay that message in a confidence way, with a confident, in confident tone, then that message will land differently in that room. So it's something that can be used in many different spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like navigating difficult conversations with loved ones or family members or anything like that. It's like you said, it's all in the delivery, because it is possible to come off as too confident, too arrogant, too
Right.
aggressive, too this, too that. And so yeah, it's very important, and each situation is unique and different. So it varies on the industry, it varies on the individual. But if people, impact to income, part of it, of course, is to get healthcare entrepreneurs to get paid for speaking engagements. And through that is strategic marketing, how they're branding themselves, what it is that their niche is, like, what are they speaking on? But it also will come down to how you deliver and how eloquent you are as you market and as you speak of what it is that you are confident in, because organizations are willing to invest so that their team can learn and feel more confident, and not just in motivational speaking, but education and knowledge and all of that, because it will help productivity, it will help them with talent acquisition and all the things. So it's very complex.
Yeah. I mean, I like the one thing that you said, it's like their brand. I think that's also very important, that we need to start seeing ourselves as brands. Whatever you're putting out there, that is your brand. So you want to make sure that you know exactly what it is that you want to stand behind, and that you are delivering that brand, because that is essentially one of the most important things that people are going to remember you by. So being able to really step into it and know what it is.
Yeah. And if you don't know, then they're not going to know.
Right. Absolutely. So if you can pick one communication habit you wish more women embrace, what would that be?
This is a good one. One communication habit that more women would embrace with one another, or just generally speaking?
Generally speaking.
I think maintaining a feminine presence,
Oof, that's good.
balance, regardless of whether it's in a male dominated industry or not. I think that is our big, like I said earlier, we're highly intuitive beings, and women have so much value to offer, like
Yes.
even in ancient times in the villages. And so I think it's important to not be over masculine, to not be the heaviest hitter in the room. it's important for women to maintain that sense of femininity. And you can do that in a very strong, cool, calm, collect kind of way that's still like not intense, but you can still have an executive presence without being masculine or overly masculine. So I wish more women had that.
It's like kind of like stepping into your soft and powerful era. You can be powerful and still very in tune with your feminine energy. I'm
Yeah.
not saying don't listen to your masculine energy, because we all have both, but we
Hmm.
want to make sure that we're not diving too into that masculine energy and ignoring what really makes us unique and our superpower, which is more of that feminine energy. So being soft and powerful and accepting both and aligning with both and how we envision that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I also think it'll reach a wider audience that way too, right? If
yeah.
we're overly masculine or overly feminine, that's going to kind of narrow down the audience that could be willing or open to listening to what it is that you have to say.
Yeah. Well, your work is deeply rooted in representation and culturally responsive care. Why is this work so personal for you?
Man, I could give you a million reasons. I know this day and age, everybody has so many different opinions in the world.
Mm.
But the work is very deeply important to me because both of my parents never went to college. Both of them had to navigate translating for their parents and also just being a child, and trying to live like a kid and do fun things. But that was very short lived because you have to work and you have to do all the things. And trying to find healthcare providers that look like you, but not just look like you, but truly understand you and listen to you and your symptoms and provide tangible outcomes and tangible resources for you. I know with my abuela's care, we, had to find several providers. And for my dad, when we were trying to find a diagnosis for him and his heart condition, it was challenging and some people would not listen and you'd have to navigate it. And I'll be the first to tell you, I've had providers who are in similar descent of myself and have not listened to me and have disregarded me. So it's really not specific to, um, a specific nationality or anything like that, but I just think it's very specific to have those that value you, that listen to you, that are culturally responsive, that won't make suggestions for you that just don't align with your personal values. And I do that every day, especially with our clients with swallowing. We're not going to suggest, or even communication and AAC devices, and we'll make suggestions, and we always want to give informed consent and have everyone understand and recognize the risks and benefits of every single decision they make. And that's really what it is that you do. You should never push your opinions or your own biases or anything like that onto anyone else. And so I think, especially with healthcare providers, that is our job. It is our due diligence to do, and not everyone does that. Some people are very heavy on research and heavy on this and heavy on that, and we kind of forget we're dealing with a human in front of us. So I have my own personal family experiences with it. And just my own experiences recently, obviously with ME and HELLP syndrome. So I just think if there's anything that we can do as healthcare providers, it would just be to make sure that we're giving holistic, cohesive, cultural, responsive care, because I know how it feels to not have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. One of the things that you said were, it doesn't necessarily, they can look like you and still not be culturally competent, right? So, like, they might not be able to tap into what your values are and like what your needs are. And I think that's really important. Even in the work that I do, there's it's so delicate, right? It's such a delicate thing to navigate. But you have to be really aware of how culture plays such a significant role in the decisions that people make for their medical care, for any care. And we might think that we know best because we're the expert in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and say, these are our recommendations. But the reality is that we also have to respect and honor what they decide they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be aligned with what we suggest.
Sure.
And we also have to respect that and not impose our views onto them, but more of just like embracing what they have to say.
Yeah, and that's where public speaking gets, like perceived ill as like, oh, you only have to be speaking on stage or you have to be speaking in a
Hmm.
podium or a panel or something like that. No, that alone, having a conversation with a patient, getting to know who they are. How do you know just because they're Spanish and Puerto Rican, they must believe in XYZ? No, you have to have conversations with them. And I recognize that not every setting sets up the healthcare providers for success in that way. It's kind of like you
Hmm.
got 20 patients, is what you got to do, and you got to get it moving.
Right.
So it's it's tough to make that general suggestion to everyone, but if you can, a few minutes, just speaking to them, if they're open to it, and better understanding their dynamic, how life is for them, what do they do, for work and everything like that within reason, it'll help you better understand, like, okay, are the suggestions I'm going to make for you practical? But I agree. I think it's in how we deliver, because I've had people just say very straightforward things to us. I'll never forget when my abuela she fell in the hospital and she had a subdural hematoma. And obviously there was like 20 of us in the room, right?
Right.
You got a bunch of Italians, Cubans, and Puerto Ricans. We're here. So the neurologist comes in and we're all just like, and I will never forget, she just walked in and it was just the most repulsive, just kind of like, oh my God, and I was like, okay, you clearly didn't read the room. No one asked you questions. No one was like ready to like jump on you. We were all just there for support. Right. And then my uncle and my mom were right there to answer questions or to get more information. So I remember getting that vibe and I was just like, oh, that's not great. Like, that's just not great. Like, it's not like we were jumping all over her for questions. So even in the few exchanges, she didn't say much. It was just her facial expression. And then, oh my God. And then like rolled her eyes and then was like, so who can I speak to here? That alone just sets the precedent where it's like, if that's how you are about that, how are you going to be, reviewing brain results or, weighing out all the options for something? It's like, not everything is so like, yeah. So speaking and how you speak and how you deliver your message and your body language and your facial expressions and like nonverbal communication, it all plays a part.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of one of those like what we say like high context or low context communication. Like high context communication is the body language, the tone, what all the other things that are not actually communicated.
Yeah.
Everything other than the words that are being communicated, that is your high context communication. And so you want to make sure that all of these things are into your awareness when you're delivering different messages.
And it'll be automatic sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
like, check your face. But it's part of what we need to do. Like, that's part of our job as healthcare providers is to like, clean your face, fix your face. Like
Exactly.
that Instagram reel where it's just constantly like, that used to be me. And you have to like, change and evolve. Why? Not because you want to change yourself. It's just during work hours, but you want to make sure that whoever it is that you're speaking to, they feel comfortable, they feel well cared for, and eventually they'll feel more open to share whatever it is with you so that you can provide better care for them.
Yeah. So how can women in any industry advocate representation in a meaningful and tangible way?
And
that's a big question.
Yeah,
any industry.
I think using their voice in an eloquent, calm, but intentional way. Finding if there are concerns within the work setting, identifying those, and then reflecting on those themselves, like where, putting ego aside and saying, okay, well, what could I do to improve? What could I do to enhance this communication breakdown or me not advancing further within my career? And maybe I don't want to be like all the way at the top. That's okay too. Maybe I value XYZ instead and I want to be more balanced in these areas. Do you have a manager? Do you have someone that's pushing you to do more than what you want to do? Okay, then maybe boundary setting needs to be better in how we convey that. So I think it would be like identifying not triggers, but identifying the concerns. What are the icks? What's giving you the ick? Identify a few of them, reflect on yourself, see if there's anything you can improve on those icks, act on those immediately. And if you feel like it continues to be something that's kind of, then assess the environment as well. Is it you? Is it the setting? Is it maybe that specific department is not conducive to your well-being? What can you do differently outside of work? Like I said, even in the car, just taking a breath and saying, okay, my body's trying to tell me something. I'm starving. I'm going to stop ignoring it. Let me get food. Psoriasis, all the things that our body likes to show up and say like, hey, you're messing up right now. So I think it's a number of things, but first and foremost, being reflective of yourself and then doing what you can to modify your environment. Because if we're not regulated, if we don't feel like we're in tune with ourselves, our message and the delivery is always going to be it's not going to land how we want it to.
Okay. I mean, I think that's good. And how we show up authentically, I think means everything, right? And so us being able to really have that self-awareness, self-reflect, take back, and you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to get attention. You don't have to, have to show up in ways that are not authentic to you to get attention or to be heard. But if you really can dive into that authenticity of who you are, that can be such a game changer in how you show up for yourself in different areas, in different industries, in different rooms, in different conversations.
Yeah, and I think those are, they can be a lot of buzzwords, but it's really fine tuning what that means to you. Like, what does authenticity mean to you?
Right.
Oh, we want the limelight and we want our face plastered on every single one of these big things upcoming and promotion and this, that, and the other. Why is that the piece that we want? What has happened to us or what has been said to us to make us feel like we could not achieve that? Because I'll be the first to tell you, especially working with high achievers, they get it. They reach and reach and reach and reach and they finally get it. And then it's like 24 hours and they're like, okay, on to the next thing. And it can be good and it can be bad. But I would say ultimately authenticity means so much more than just, oh, be authentic to yourself. It's like, okay, but what does that mean to you? If you are yearning for something specifically, whatever it may be, ask yourself why and make sure that it aligns with what you want it to be. So for me, my thing has always been impact. And what does it mean by impact? It means spreading that message, spreading that energy, spreading that aura of what we want, which is for everyone to be treated with holistic, amazing care and for people to be able to communicate the way that they want to in whatever setting with those they love, with those they have, maybe disagreements with in a work setting, all of that. And so that's really where it comes to me. So I use that as my driving force to do the things that I do rather than say, oh, I want to be on this stage or I want to do this or I want to go on TED because it's TED. It's like, be specific. Those things may come with it as part of your journey and that's beautiful and that's great. But just ensure that you are not going to go down a different avenue and alley that's totally away from what you were really originally aiming for.
Right. So like that alignment, right? So what are your values? What are the things that you cherish? We're making sure that when you wake up in the morning and you look at your life and you're reflective of it, it's that you're living in that alignment with the things that are important to you, not what you have been told should be important, not what you see on social media that should be important. It's more about really tapping into who you are as a person and what is important to you, not everybody else.
And you'll know by how you feel.
Absolutely. Tuning into your body will respond to you.
It's like that immediate answer,
So you're a mom of two, you're running your practice, you're teaching, you're speaking, you're mentoring, and you've got a lot going on in your world. So how do you stay grounded going after all these ambitions that you have and, navigating the burnout? So like all these things that you have experienced, how do you maintain grounded throughout all of that?
I mean, I think with giving birth to Emmy and having the complications I did with HELLP syndrome, I had no choice but to kind of step back. So we did scale the business. We did hire. We did, I have an amazing team. But it took time and I would constantly go back home. So if I had to do an interview, I would go to conduct the interview and come back home and rest. Didn't see clients, I see clients about 2 days a week now, but that's because we're down one therapist. We have a new one starting in January. So most of those clients are going to go right back to that new therapist. So I think part of it is listening to your body. And, I feel very, very grateful that I have a huge support system. Without that, I'd be dead, literally. And so having the support system, having an assistant, having a billing team, having an amazing husband and the abuelos to step in and watch and care. Like Emmy just started daycare 2 months ago. So we were able to keep her home for over 9 months, which was great for someone who was separated from her for a week. Right. So, I think it's listening to your body, but also asking for help, not being afraid to ask for help when needed and delegating if you can, being systematic in how you delegate and strategic if you own a company or if you work somewhere, because let's face it, had I been working for someone else, I would have absolutely had to go on FMLA and stayed out longer. And that's what are they going to do? It is what it is, right? I think everything is figure outable, I've learned, no matter what. Yeah. And that would be my biggest piece of advice is I did what I had to do with what I had. And like I said, it seems like I do a lot, but some days are very open so that I can do administrative work or I can start my morning slow, not until 9:30, 10. I can prioritize exercising to keep my cardiac health good, especially post-HELLP syndrome and everything, but also detaching myself from that identity as HELLP syndrome survivor. It's good to mention it because I want to bring awareness to it, but I'm so much more than that. And I don't want to constantly live with that label of like, we have to be careful with this, we have to be careful with that. It's like, no, your body's strong and you've done amazing things and you will continue to get stronger. And so it's listening to your body, setting up your environment, your daily. That's why earlier when you said if you're living in alignment, you'll know. And I know because I can pick up my kids whenever I want. I spend an immense amount of time with them. And I spend enough time at work and my team feels supported. We still meet weekly. It's the best system setup, but it was hard. It was hard to shift from I need help. And some of these systems were already in place before I had Emmy, which was a huge help. But like you said earlier, we're not directly tied to our productivity and our value and our worth. You cannot do all the things. Like you cannot do all the billing. You cannot do all the marketing. You cannot do treating the clients. You cannot do all the documentation. You cannot do all the follow-ups and hiring and scaling and putting systems into place and taking care of your children and, doing all the things at home. And then on top of that, having a social life, like, going out with your girlfriends and being able to grab dinner or catch up or, have time to send voice memos and meditate if you want to, or draw or color or, binge watch Selling Sunset. I don't know who likes to do that, but all the things. My husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, shh. When we deal with such specific things at work that are so higher level cognitively, I just want to zone out, I just want to like do my thing. So for me, that's how we've managed to do it. A huge support system, recognizing that I cannot do all the things and being slow and intentional, but finding the right team. So it's how and I think there's no mistake that even though this was the hardest year of my life, we've scaled, we've moved into a new clinic space. It's a beautiful wellness inspired space that's calm and reflective. And I mean, we've grown more in this year that was the most difficult year in my life than we have for as long as since 2019 when I bought the LLC and then 2021 when I actually started taking it seriously. So there's no mistake that when I was finally forced to say, stop, you need to stop. You need to slow it down. There's no mistake that my whole thought process was like, oh my God, I can't. Like I physically can't do that. Physically can't. So now I have to do XYZ. Now I have to get a team. Now I have to do blah, blah, blah. And because of all that, you grow way more. And you have a team that, reflects what you value. And I'm kind of like, well, it's unfortunate that it took such a drastic measure to make things fall in line with how I've wanted them to be this whole time. But it's also okay to recognize that maybe we were afraid to outsource this. Maybe we're afraid to delegate that. Maybe we're afraid to interview and bring on new people because this is what we know. We have control over it ourselves. But it's not sustainable. You cannot be the only person. If you want to, grow and scale, you cannot be the only person doing all the things. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to everything that has happened to me was supposed to happen to me. And I'm now a completely different human. I'm a completely different CEO, more importantly, and mama and wife. And I would have never been able to do that had I not experienced everything that I experienced.
For those listening who don't know what HELLP syndrome is, can you tell us a little bit about what that is? And if you are comfortable sharing a little bit of your experience with HELLP syndrome?
Yeah, so HELLP syndrome is a very severe form of preeclampsia. So with my first pregnancy, I had a placental abnormality with both of my pregnancies, but I had mild preeclampsia with Luca. So with Emmy, I had a C-section and I hemorrhaged post-op, and then everything was pretty good, so it was fine. And then we went home, and I was only home for maybe a day, if that, 12 hours. And then I had to go back to the hospital because my blood pressure was like 171 over 101.
Wow.
And my liver enzymes were like completely elevated. My heart rate was really low. And so I walked in with my insurance card and I was like, let's go. Like, just give me what I need so I can get out of here. Give me a mag bag. And they're like, no, you're not going anywhere. So I was in there for close to a week. They had to do several rounds of magnesium IV drip. I had a terrible reaction to the blood pressure medication they gave me, which was called Percardia. An excruciating adverse reaction to it. They had to do a CT scan on me and make sure that I didn't have any brain episodes or anything like that. And then they placed me on labetalol, which was much better. I had to be in bed pretty much the entire time. And then imagine not only recovering from a C-section, but being so completely anemic and then having the HELLP syndrome. So they had to put the things on my legs that, like pulsated them to decrease my risk of blood clotting. And so, yeah, talk about weak, talk about out of it, talk about all the drugs they were giving me. I was like completely incoherent. My mom was with me the entire time. I think Lewis was able to bring the baby maybe once or twice, but most of the time I was completely out of it. So the nurses were amazing. Like I said, I lost a lot of blood and continued to do so even when I was there. So yeah, I think just the whole experience, and then coming home was like, then I had mastitis once I came home, so I had to go back and get more medication. So it was just not your typical experience of having a baby, going home, and already being on your feet a week later. And I didn't drive for like 4 months. I couldn't even sit up for very long. It was just very humbling. And then Emmy was huge. Baby girl was like 8 pounds. I was like, of course you are, because I have a scar and I'm like literally so fatigued and exhausted I can barely hold you. So breastfeeding was pretty short-lived, which was okay. And then with Luca, I had dysphoric milk ejection reflex, so it was pretty challenging breast pumping, but I exclusively breast pumped with him for 13 months, and I was pretty crazy. And a lot of postpartum anxiety with him. Crazy in the sense that I did not recognize that there was any other means of feeding other than exclusively pumping as much as I can, despite the dysphoric milk ejection reflex. So it was miserable. And then with Emmy, that's when I was really like prioritizing my mental health. And since it was round 2 for me, even though it was a completely different kind of round 2 than I expected and scared everyone, including my husband and family, I was kind of like, yeah, this is not in the playing cards, and I'm okay with that. Like, let's just pump. And I pumped for a little while, and then I got more mastitis. And then, despite having lactation consultants coming in, and I did all the things, but ultimately I was like, we're just going to formula feed. And then, I was able to rest at home. Like I said, I had fourth trimester come in and do the pelvic floor exam. I massages when I could and all the things. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not, prepared. And obviously having a pregnancy, it's coming. So I was able to prepare. The Impact to Income course did amazing, the first launch. And just diversifying my income with workshops and everything like that. So and I just was eating steak for as long as you can imagine. So it's a very dangerous, it can be fatal if not treated quickly. And I'm not textbook. I think that's what the doctors have determined. They said, what happened to me is very scary, and usually it gets better. But again, a lot of what is said is not true. Like if you look at the research, I've been in communication with the Preeclampsia Foundation, and just a lot of what's out there is just not true. And a lot of my symptoms were showing up even before the C-section. So my BP was spiking beforehand, and I was told that I'm checking it too much, and that it's my anxiety. They kind of pulled the anxiety card. Because I didn't have any creatine in my urine, I believe, and like I did with Luca. So I think, again, just as healthcare providers, we need to recognize, especially when I've dealt with organic voice disorders or individuals who have had something that they can't explain and that it's not showing up on any endoscopy or imaging or swallow study, I still believe them because that's how they feel. And so for me, because I didn't have creatine in my urine, and because of that, they just rolled with the anxiety card until I was there, and they were like, oh, you're not leaving. And I'm like, oh, so now it's a serious thing. But before I had never even heard of HELLP syndrome. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I heard of preeclampsia, I heard of creatine in your urine, I heard of those traditional markers, but I never heard that HELLP syndrome can be deadly and is very serious if not treated, and it's silent, which is what makes it fatal. So not really being educated on any of those things beforehand could really set someone up for failure. And I would have people reach out to me and say, oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay. I know someone that had that and they didn't make it. And so hearing that is like very triggering, and it's very like, oh my gosh, like recognizing it. And now that it's been 11 months, now is when I'm starting to understand what has happened, what's taken place, and how I persevered and pushed through it. And again, I don't think I would have been able to do that without such a good support system. And I know you've been amazing to me and guiding me and helping me just mentally, because it's a lot. And as healthcare providers, we're the first to put ourselves last. And, we can put on a mask and fake it for our patients, but it's not sustainable long term. So being able to experience the things that I have experienced and push through, it only further strengthens my like my vision and my mission. And that's where that holistic responsive care comes into place. We have to listen to our patients. We have to see the clinical signs, but we also have to listen to them. And when you say you don't feel right and you're just being told you're checking it too much, well, clearly maybe I wasn't checking it enough, So I think it's important for anyone who's pregnant to be sure that the doctors they have, they trust and they feel confident and comfortable with them. Do not be afraid to put people on a no treat list. When I called the OB this morning for my follow-up appointment, I said, everybody but so-and-so, and you're just be specific, and there's no, just be confident. And because it's your well-being, it's your life. And, yeah, I mean, it's a wild ride, but that would be my suggestion to anyone who, plans on getting pregnant or anything like that. Always check your blood pressure. You should always have a blood pressure cuff on hand, and, get additional testing and follow up. And there were a lot of things that I was anemic and no one really told me. They didn't really think it was an issue. So I think it's funny. I don't know if this has been your experience, but being a healthcare provider, explain to me. It goes through our mind, because when I go to the doctor, I'm like, I'm just gonna say is like, I just want to dumb it down. I don't want to be like, I'm this, I'm that, blah blah blah. I think this is blah blah blah. But it's like you dim your credentials a little bit, because you don't want to, because you know how it is to be a healthcare provider and have someone just bombard you with all these things like, well, ChatGPT said this, that, and the other, or
or Google said this, or WebMD said that. So
WebMD said it, and I'm just like, okay, how do you navigate that? So
yeah.
Instead, you want to be, polite and everything like that. And I have learned, you can be vocal and polite. You can be intentional in what you say and be polite. And just be prepared for, and if you get pushback, that's okay. Ask if there's another, provider, or say, well, I'm not understanding why that is a reservation. I don't think that's warranting for testing. Okay, no problem. Then what would be clinical signs that would warrant testing, so that I can be mindful for the future? And then if they say, or if they can't name him off to you, then is there someone here who can? And it's not to be outsmarting anyone. It's just to advocate for yourself, because you are a patient. You have to take off that clinician hat, that CEO hat, and say, okay, I'm the patient now. Just like we want our patients to fiercely advocate for themselves, we should be doing the same.
And allowing people to take care of us, right? So allowing the clinicians to do what they need to do, but also very much advocate for ourselves. And it's not coming from a place that, we might know more than you do. You are still the expert in the room, but I am the expert on me. And so I know what is not feeling right. So I need you to marry the information that I'm giving you with the information that you have, and let's come up with a solution that actually makes sense for me, because we're going to have to tweak this treatment plan a little bit, because I'm telling you there is something off. And I understand, I'm not challenging your knowledge. I mean, obviously, if they're clinicians, like we're clinicians. We obviously came to be who we are based on what we've seen. But like you said, there's a lot of textbook things. And yeah, when we check off all the criteria of a diagnosis, then okay, yeah, it's very textbook. But what happens when you have someone sitting in front of you that doesn't check off all those things? This is where the cultural thing comes in. This is where manifestations of certain things in our bodies are going to come in. And this is where you really need to dive in and, as a clinician, accept, okay, well, yeah, they're the expert of their body, or they're the expert of their mental health. They're the expert of who they are. They've been living this life in this body for X amount of years. So maybe they do know a thing or two about what might be off or different in their scenario. So being able to navigate that and really as a patient, be able to advocate in a way that they can listen, where they don't feel like we're challenging them, but also for us as clinicians and knowledgeable people, being able to just sit back and say, okay, I'm going to take my clinician hat off. I'm going to allow you to treat me, and I'm going to allow you to create a treatment plan. But if I do think something's off, I'm going to say something, and I am going to advocate. But being able to navigate that is very challenging. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, even navigating survivor's guilt, right? So receiving a text message and saying, I know someone who had that and they didn't quite make it. It's being able to navigate that survivor's guilt that sometimes comes up, and saying, being grateful and also acknowledging like now I have a second chance and I got to do all these things, but also being very delicate with that and not feeling guilty for surviving it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to what I said as well, where public speaking is not just speaking publicly on a stage. It's as simple as having those really, difficult conversations where it's like, how can I reiterate how I'm feeling? How can I reiterate it in a way that they understand? And if they don't, then find someone else who does. Like, and that's okay. So it's almost like getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, understanding that it's not confrontational, it's conflict resolution. And
Yes.
when we relabel things in a way that it's not just more digestible, it's the truth.
Hmm.
It allows you to better advocate for yourself and be more comfortable because those are difficult conversations to have. But yeah, I mean, talk about second chance. Yeah, it's taken a while. It's definitely taken a while.
And it's, it comes in seasons and you're doing wonderful and you're doing great things and you're a great mama, you're a great wife, you're a great friend. And as you're not my boss, but I know how much you care about your employees because we've talked about it. So I know
Mhm.
that the fact that you care so much about the culture and what you're doing as a boss, it really shows a lot of who you are as a person and how intentional you are about every single role that you're showing up in. So
Thank
keep
you.
doing what you're doing.
Thank you, my love.
Well, let's wrap up a little bit. Let's go into a wrap up quick fire questions. I'm going to ask you some questions and just think about whatever comes to mind. Just say it. Okay?
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Perfect. So, a value that you lead with.
Honesty.
Oof, I love that. A boundary you're proud of setting.
Ooh, mom life. You learn all the boundaries there. The boundaries that I am setting, always picking up my children early from school. And just because they can be there till 6:30 doesn't mean I'm going to pick them up at 6:30. I will always pick them up between 3:30, 4, the latest, if not sooner, if I can.
Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
Intentional about mama, showing up as a mama.
Yeah.
Exactly. A moment that forever changed the way that you see leadership.
Hmm. I had well, I have many, um, and all have some level of like identifying information that I would not be able to share. But being able to be on the opposite end as a leader for someone else going through something so life changing and being able to support them in a way and have them say things to me, like what you mentioned earlier, ironically, like, wow, not everyone, like the way that you are such a selfless leader. And not many bosses would say that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like the surprise I get is sad. It's sad, the surprise I get from the way that I treat this. It's a pleasant surprise to them, but it's sad to me that somewhere along the lines, whatever life changing things they have been through, they have not received the same unconditional care. So I think those moments have changed me just in those responses I get from a team member or something along those lines that make me feel like, wow, what I'm doing is normal to me, but it is not to everyone else. So I think those moments make me feel like I am aligned with what I'm doing. I'm aligned in what I'm offering, and I'm practicing what I preach, which is the biggest thing.
Oof, yes, practicing what you preach is huge.
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer in that. You always have to evaluate and make sure that what you're preaching is something that you're able to practice. And if you're not practicing it, but you're preaching it, then something needs to change. And you need to
Hmm.
reevaluate where you are in your life and go back into alignment.
Yeah, and it happens, and that's okay. But being able
Yeah.
to have the humility to recognize that, and it could be
Hmm.
environmental things that made you, derail or whatever. But
Situations
yeah.
that are not in your control, but
Hmm.
finding your way back is important.
Yeah.
And a mantra that you return to often.
I am worthy.
Yes. And what does ambition with intention mean to you?
Mm, kind of what we talked about earlier. Ambitious with intention, going after things you want because they align with who you are, not chasing the limelight or the idea of a healthcare influencer online or being the one with this award or this label or this title or this revenue goal. I think being ambitious intentionally means that you are achieving or desiring to achieve your highest self because you know that you are worthy of that. Nothing to do with material revenue or anything monetary. It has everything to do with how can I be my highest self as a human being in this world. That's what that means to me.
Okay, I love that. Well, thank you for joining us at Mindful Ambition. If today's conversation with Vanessa resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share this episode, and a fellow ambitious soul, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep showing up with intention. Your ambition deserves to be honored. Thank you, Vanessa, for being here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.